Every gilded cage is built with walls of comfort. The only question is what you're paying for them.
All right, welcome to The Explainer. I want you to think about something for a second. What if the world you see all around you, the money in your pocket, the country you live in, even the science you're taught to trust, what if none of it is real? Today, we're going to dive deep into a theory that says our reality is basically a prison, but, and this is the important part, it also offers a key to get out.
So let's start with something really personal, your memories. I mean, they're what make you, you, right? But here's a wild thought. From a purely scientific view, where exactly are they? You know, we can map out all the different functions of the brain, but if you ask a neuroscientist, hey, point to where my first kiss is stored, they just can't. And that little mystery, that's our way into this whole theory.
Yeah, so the source material we're digging into really hammers this point home. It's a huge mystery. Science just can't nail down where a memory actually lives. We know which bits of the brain light up when you're remembering something, but the memory itself, it's like a ghost in the machine, everywhere and nowhere at the same time. And according to this theory, that's not just some gap in our knowledge we'll fill in later. No, it's a giant, blinking sign that maybe, just maybe, we're looking at reality completely backwards.
And that leads to this. Well, this really bold claim. The argument is that our most trusted tool for understanding the world, the scientific method, isn't actually where the big breakthroughs come from. Nope, they come from imagination, from intuition, things science can't really measure or explain. And this idea is absolutely crucial, you guys, because it hints that there's this whole other layer to reality that our normal tools just can't touch.
Okay, so if our understanding of things is flawed, what's filling in those gaps? Well, according to the theory, it's what are called systems of control. And we're not just talking about social norms here. We're talking about powerful, deliberately created ideas that are designed to build our whole perception of reality. And it starts with something we all use every single day.
Let's talk about money, right? We're all taught from day one that money is this scarce, valuable thing you have to work for. But this theory, it says that's basically a lie. It argues that the whole modern banking system was built on a kind of magic trick. You know, creating paper money, supposedly backed by gold, but then, whoops, printing way more paper than there was actual gold. It was literally creating value out of nothing.
And that, of course, leads to the big question, doesn't it? If banks can just create infinite money, then why is anyone poor? And the answer this theory gives is, well, it's pretty chilling. It says, scarcity isn't an accident. It's not a bug in the system. It's the main feature. It's a tool to keep us all scrambling, focused on just surviving so we never have the time or energy to look up and question what's really going on.
And this idea of a manufactured reality, it doesn't just stop at money. It goes right to the core of who we think we are. Take the idea of a nation or a country. The theory says this isn't some ancient, natural thing. It's actually a pretty new invention, really hammered into us through things like public schools. It gives us this abstract identity. You know, I'm American, or I'm French, that we're supposed to be loyal to, willing to fight for, and even die for.
So here's the first big takeaway from the theory. Things like money and nationalism, they aren't just parts of society. They're the bars of a mental prison. A prison built out of ideas we've been conditioned our whole lives never, ever to question. Which naturally leads to the next question. If we're in a prison, who's the warden? Who built this thing? Well, to even begin to answer that, the theory says we have to go way back, like thousands of years back, to a kind of secret origin story. An ancient cosmology that turns everything we think we know about God and the universe completely on its head.
Okay, so at the very core of all this is an ancient philosophy called Gnosticism. Stick with me here. The idea is that the true source of everything, let's call it the monad, is this perfect spiritual thing. But one of its creations, a lesser, kind of flawed being called the Demiurge, went off and created the physical world, our world. And this world, it's a copy, it's a prison. And we are little sparks of that original perfect divinity trapped inside this material world with our memories of where we came from totally wiped. So if you're a divine spark trapped in a flawed world, how do you get out? Well, it's not through praying to the guy who built the prison. The key is something called Gnosis. It's a Greek word that means knowledge, but we're not talking about book smarts. This is a deep, profound inner knowing, the sudden realization of your own divine nature. The theory says that remembering who you really are, that's the moment the spark inside you lights back up. That's what starts the journey home.
You see how this framework just changes, well, everything.
If the prison is in your mind and the key to escape is knowledge, then that means all of human history, all our wars, our politics, our religions, it's all been happening on a battlefield that most of us don't even know exists.
The real war, the true battlefield, is for your perception. The ultimate power isn't about having the biggest army or the most money. It's about having the power to define what's real for everyone else. Think about it. If some group could convince every single person on Earth that there is no divine spark, that this material world is all there is, game over. The prison doors lock from the inside forever. They win. Okay, let me give you a perfect example of this. Think about the story of Adam and Eve in the Garden of Eden. In the version we all grew up with, the serpent is the bad guy, right? But through this Gnostic lens, the serpent is actually the hero. It offers humanity the one thing the creator god of this world wanted to keep all to himself: knowledge, Gnosis. The serpent isn't tempting them to fall, it's trying to wake them up. It's a liberator. All right, so if the prison is mental, the war is for our minds, and the key is knowledge, then what's our weapon? What's our way out? Where does the power to break free actually come from? Well, the theory points to one very specific, very human ability.
And this might be the most mind-bending part of the whole thing. Remember that true, perfect source, the monad? By its very nature, it's already complete. It can't really change or grow. So why create us, these imperfect little beings? For one reason: to imagine. The theory says that every time we paint a picture, write a song, tell a story, or even just daydream about a different world, we are literally expanding the universe. We're feeding new possibilities back to the source. Our imagination isn't just a fun little quirk, it's our cosmic purpose.
So the ultimate takeaway here is pretty profound. Real power, it's not held by banks or governments or armies. It's that little divine spark of imagination that exists inside every single one of us. The ability to look at the prison walls around you and imagine a world where they don't exist, that's not just daydreaming. According to this theory, it is the single most powerful force in the entire universe.
And that's really where this whole thing leaves us. This theory of everything basically takes our reality and shows it to us as a collection of powerful stories, of competing beliefs. And it leaves us with one last, really big question to chew on. If it's all just a story, what story are you going to choose to believe?